You're watching Rurouni K95's anime review on 8 Man After. Hi, Ruronis. This is your pal Rurouni K95 here. Today's anime review, we get to cover another 90s anime OVA that only has 4 episodes. For today's anime review is 8 Man After. 8 Man After is a 4-episode anime OVA, which is probably directed by the anime direct. Oh, I forgot. Oh yes, we'll get to that in just a moment. So for the thing about 8 Man After, however, so this is your typical anime, particularly. It's basically how it started as an OVA, which only has like one of the main reasons about this anime, like 8 Man After, is particularly explained given in the title to explain what it is about 8 Man After, because this capsulated only 4 episodes as a OVA series, particularly, and that's oh yeah, and also 8 Man is started as an anime and manga that started in the 1963, which it goes under the name Man as well, because come to think of it, this is how he started before there was, because 8 Man was started as an iconic anime heroes. Because come to think of it, 8 Man was ranked number ninth in the Mania Entertainment's top most iconic anime heroes, which is before Cyborg 009, the $6 Million Man, and RoboCop. There was 8 Man after 8 Man, the first cyborg manga and anime hero, building on Astro Boy. 8 Man helped to shape the trajectory of robot and cyborg heroes for the next decade as well. So, but I'm here to discuss about the OVA, which is 8 Man After, which has released in August 21st, 1993 to November 22nd, 1993, and this anime OVA was directed by Yoriyasu Ogawa as well. So let's review 8 Man After to start with. And the recent so let's begin here. In this dark future, criminal cyborgs run amok, fueled by the drug they needed to have their brain interface with their artificial parts. The drug destroys the human brain with a prolonged use. In this future, the first 8 Man has disappeared after a bottle with being a person called Kozuma. I am not sure what it was because it did not appear in the original series, or as it was mentioned in the original 8 Man intro, but back in the 60s as well. Another private detective is killed and brought back by the professor as the new 8th Man. By this time, all the other original characters that are there, but updated in the looks and personality, all except Sachiko, Jenny Heart Sweet in the original dub version. Her look was updated, but she was pretty useless. Pissed by that screamed and got in the way. That tip was a typical for a female character in the early 60s, but this four-parter was done in 1993. This character was lent little to the story, and I assumed she was put there to stay true to the original characters for 8 Man as well. F- uh, or for a half-hearted love interest attempt, she should have been updated in more than her appearance, or at least having the sense to get out of the way when a battle is going on. To me, particularly if she was almost as just as annoying, but the rest of the characters were done well. It should have been a 12 episode anime series unless it was at this point, as it was, if it wasn't as a 4 episode OVA series, but that's not how it has expected to be, which is not what I meant as well. There was not enough time in 4 episodes to do justice to the characters, flesh out the villains, or to the new 8th Man's inner conflict with his past and what he has become. Definitely would have been better in 12 episodes. Never to said it would have been for a 12 episode anime TV series, or it could be basically how they made it as a OVA as well, because OVA is basically direct to video anime. Other than that, it is a good anime. The animation was superb. I really got the feeling that 8 Man was moving faster than the human eye could follow. The fight scenes were nicely done by my taste, but A may be violent for the some. The soundtrack was great though. So for the thing about Eight Man After, I mean, this is particularly to explain what it is about Eight Man After to expect if it is for this particular 90s OVA. I mean, particularly this was aired on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the 90s. Streamline Pictures has combined the OVA episodes into a nearly 2 hour long movie for its video release, and it's lacks the original Japanese audio track, even with its DVD release as well at this point. Because the anime does a decent job at first sucking you into its cyberpunk-like world with a corruption mega corporation and an enthusiastic freelance detective fishing around for clues, suspecting that the executive of said corporation has connections into the city's crime world. But when the character of Eight Man makes his presence felt towards the middle of the series, these things do become formulaic pretty quickly, with the series making a poor mix of typical anti-hero hooked on revenge cliche, and Eight Man's character becoming conflicted with blurring of both of his human and robot sides as well. While the later usually has potential in the cyberpunk titles, because to explore a robotic character conflicted with their humanity, the series does suffer up some major logical lapses with how Eight Man became with his origins, as some details on his past are brought up from a man who provides the maintenance and his missions from him. And also, the series has conventionally ignores this issue as a later developments as in the main plot progresses, thus killing any kind of feeling one is supposed to have Eight Man's personal conflicts as well, particularly if you ever see Eight Man After as well, particularly to explain what it is about Eight Man After of how you expect to how it intends to be, particularly for this anime. The plot with the mega corporation is like your typical Hollywood style plot in the terms of its development and having its fair share over the top moments, complements of violent activity of the thugs and the issues faced from the mega corporation's actions. The only prominent aspect of the plot that stuck out decently with its explanation on how the mega corporation's actions affect a washed up football player who wind up having his limbs converted into a cyborg during the later part of the series. I mean, what is up with OVAs being made as a movie version? Well, that is the question. That's how Streamline Pictures, how they combine these 4 episode OVA of how they made it as a movie version, particularly what Streamline Pictures has a lot to do with, and especially for the English dub for Eight Man After, particularly, it's probably what Streamline Pictures have a lot to do with this. Yeah, and come to think of it, this was part of your typical anime OVA series that came out in the 90s that has particularly aired on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the 90s. Despite if you are an anime fan during the 90s, especially if you loved watching anime in the 90s, you'll probably know Eight Man After, because this is your typical anime OVA that is particularly on the Sci-Fi Channel, alongside with other animes like Odin, Photon, Sailor Starlight, Galaxy Express 39, Urusei Yatsura, Beautiful Dreamer, Robot Carnival, Vampire Hunter D, Neo Tokyo, and Wicked City, or Demon City Shinjuku, or Lily Cat, that has been particularly part of every certain anime titles, along with Eight Man After, that were part of the Sci-Fi Channel back in the 90s as well. I mean, come to think of it, this is your typical 90s OVA anime as well. So, anyways, the visuals to Eight Man After are mostly standard for the time period, with decent details given to scenery shots and the character designs, though Eight Man's design looks a bit rough compared to the other characters of how they expect about what it is of how Eight Man After on how they made the characters expect of how you expect on how they made the design, especially with reused animation frames done when Eight Man is showing off his ridiculous speed. The music does its part to complement the title's various scenes, though nothing memorable sticks out with it as well of how expected as well. I mean, Eight Man After is basically a 1993 cybertech anime that depicts the future in which science has advanced to extent that developing cyborgs replacing body parts with cyber technology is possible of how what is going on in Eight Man After as well. Because the story of Eight Man has been briefly discussed above. It revolves around Sachiko, a companion of the previous Eight Man, Hazama, with the new Eight Man, Tony Gleck, the man who was reason of serious emotional scars for Hazama. Each character manages to get the screen time. The development of the story is natural. It takes some time to understand it properly, but that counts as positive for that. As of the results, for the credibility to have with creative works that'll basically stand the test of time, which it is basically how they made the first define in the key terms and the main plot line. They let the story explain things on the way, even for someone who hasn't seen the original Eight Man anime. Two or less than the satisfactory results as well. Because the only thing, I mean, the art, however, the art, considering how old the anime is well done. The colors are surely dull, but the environment, blasts the shattering mirrors, and especially the way of they depicted violence is well done. Not amazing, but well done, actually. The characters are more or less well made, other than few instances where a few characters seem too wide. The sound was fine with the main theme is good. It emphasizes on the action scenes, but other than that, there's nothing amazing about the sound effects of how you expect what you hear in Eight Man After. Especially the explosions and the firing has been well handled, as well as giving the Eight Man his own crisp sound effects. The characters and however, the personalities and tones and moods were implemented quite well. That said, the personalities were realistic and could be related with the occupation role each character has. An example would be the discussion between Hazama and O'Connor when discussing his memorable touchdown in the stadium. Another would involve the chief and how he converses with Hazama as well. For overall, for this particular anime, because this show is for those who mainly understand the story, get the gist of the characters' situations, and then enjoy how the story proceeds. The professional aspects of either Hazama, the police officers, or Sachiko is believable, and their personalities makes the anime fun to watch. It does not have as much fast-paced action as many would expect, but that makes me stand out from the other cliche animes on any one of them. Still, the lack of action can be considered a setback considering the setup of the anime. Most people would be looking for an amazing showdown in the end, fantastic gymnastics and crazy maneuvers that bring the show to an end, but it does not go in that way, but that's not how to expect of what it is to explain about what is going on in Eight Man After. But overall, I think it's a really good and fun anime, keeping in mind the era it came out. It isn't the typical excessively action-packed anime, but it's a lot worth watching as well. If you haven't seen Eight Man After, I highly recommend you to check it out. If you can watch it on Crunchyroll or Tubi TV, or if you can get it on DVD as well, because this is your typical 90s anime OVA that has part of other certain anime titles that were part of the Sci-Fi Channel during the 90s as well. So that's going to be it for my anime review on Eight Man After for today's anime review. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's my thoughts on this. I really love the series. I mean, this is a lot more different than the original Eight Man series that has been around since the 60s as well, because this has to the extent before there was Cyborg 009 or any other anime as well. Because if you haven't seen Eight Man After, I highly recommend you to watch it on either Crunchyroll or Tubi TV, or if you can get it on DVD as well. Hope subscribe for content. My anime playlist link in the description down below. You can share this video on our Twitter, Facebook if you have Twitter, Facebook account, and all of social media. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up by clicking on the like button on this video. Feel free to leave in the comments section. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RuRoniK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially if you're new to my channel. Hit the notifications bell. Be sure to get notified. Keep it otaku for this anime review, and I got another anime review coming up next year. Stay tuned for my next anime review. I got a Fist of the North Star related anime for tomorrow's anime review on Legends of the Dark Kings, a Fist of the North Star story. Stay tuned for my next anime review on Legends of the Dark King, a Fist of the North Star story, because you won't want to miss another anime review